AOSD Chandler. AOSD. Watch me bring it out.
Assembly of Sound Doctrine.
AOSD. Watch me bring it out.
You know the scripture. You know the scripture. So what they saying? You brought her with you. Now you're playing. Ain't playing with your plans. Scriptures watch the land. I'm powering up with higher guys like Super Science. I can do it solo. Kill a whole doctor with three quotes. From the Christians to the Hebrews. They're all lost like Nemo. And they give them a shot like a free throw. Break it all down like a peephole. Take some notes from the lesson, gain knowledge. It's a lesson from the spirit in your kingdom. That's a keyhole. Oh no, I know it's been fulfilled and all know. The kingdom is here, I'm hyped, so underneath we might glow. Come learn with me, this new covenant living. The kingdom within, loving all of God's children. Watch me bring some truth, bring works of good fruits. Hebrew literature, rip doctrines like saber tooth. I'm gonna let it loose from the Passover to the Feast of Booths, from the law of Moses, from head to toes to the new creation. Everything is new. AOSD, 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 Assembly of Sound Doctrine.
Shalom, shalom, my great people. This is Israel from the Assembly of Sound Doctrine, Chandler. Let's see what's going on here tonight. All right, there we go. This is my YouTube channel, AOSD-CHANDLER. You know, the point of my channel is to get into the ancient Israelite mindset from their perspective, using their literature as a primary source to explain how they viewed these holy, inspired scriptures. Today, we're going to actually go through the journey of ancient Israel coming from the Apocrypha, right? Using some of the apocalyptic literature to exegete what the prophets was actually speaking about and expounding upon. So today we're going to be going through Second Ezra 7 and using it to exegete Daniel chapter 9. And not only will I be on my Facebook, I will also be up on Clubhouse. So um, I'll see you guys there if you're not on Facebook. And thanks everyone that's for listening in. Thank you, Brother Tony. I appreciate the comment. And like the video, share the video, expound this information, right? So a lot more people can take part of it, partake of it, and maybe even learn from it and grow with us. So let's see here. Got this room. And we are a go also for my clubhouse. So everyone, give me 1 second as I try to get the clubhouse set up. But in meantime, you can view the channel. You can take this channel, subscribe to it, and share. I got 255 subscribers, and eventually, I believe I will be able to hit my next goal, which would be 275 subscribers. So now I am getting my clubhouse together. And if you don't know, I am Assembly Sound Doctrine. Once again, Assembly Sound Doctrine on Clubhouse. I had to leave out of because it was too long. So it's Assembly Sound Doctrine. Let's see, update. Shalom to my Clubhouse, folks. Okay, then there we go. Brother Mike, I'm gonna make you moderator, my brother. So we got there we go. So we got my brother Mike. He's doing the moderating. He will be the one to bring people up. If you have a question, raise your hand. He will bring you up and etc. Brother Mike, if you want to cut me off and add anything, please just speak a little loud so I can hear you. Yes, sir. Well, I pretty much put all things in your hand because I trust you and I know that you run a tight shift and you'll make sure this ship does not sink. So I have no problems with that, my brother. And I think I done pinged all of our brothers in RPK slash AOSD Chandler slash not made with hands slash all things fulfilled. So I think that we are ready to rock and roll. So, what I'm finna do, I'm gonna go into the Apocrypha now. If anyone's not familiar with the Apocrypha, it's those supposedly those 400 intermediate years between the Old Testament and the New Testament. But as I showed you guys yesterday, that's not always the accurate information, right? In fact, what we're going through right now, Second Ezra, it actually was created at the end of the first century CE, around the time of the destruction of the temple, which the scholars put at 70 AD. So the reason why I like Second Ezra is because it shows us the mindset of those first quote unquote Christians or the people that was the follower of the new way. It shows us their mindset and actually how those authors, and I said authors with an S because the scholar says more than one author created Second Ezra, show you how those authors actually exegeted ancient prophecies left over by the prophets. So I'm going to start in Second Ezra chapter 7. So let me put it up on the screen. And y'all know I display it on my Facebook Live. It's Elvin Israel if you're on my Facebook. So I finna pull it up on my Facebook. So let me find exactly where I put it at. Ah, I guess that would help if I actually do that. All right, so now we're going to actually go into Second Ezra chapter 7, verse 26. And we're going to I'm just going to read it and I'm going to show you how the author of Second Ezra actually exegeted um, the end times or the time of the end, as well as Daniel 9, as well as some of the book of Revelation. And you will see how he actually included all of this information together to give it one flow. So, 2nd Ezra 7:26 states, Behold, well, I want to start at 25. It says, And therefore, Ezra, for the empty are empty things, and for the full are full things. Verse 26. Behold, the time shall come that these tokens which I have told thee shall come to pass. And the bride shall appear, and she coming forth shall be seen, that now is withdrawn from the earth. So she will see that now that is withdrawn from the earth. So we're starting off right here, Second Ezra 7:26. I did my Second Ezra 6 yesterday to tell you the things that he's talking about. But just to give you a recap, Second Ezra, supposedly Ezra was asking the angel, I believe it was the angel Gabriel, what's going to happen at the time of the end? This is supposed to take you into the time line that Ezra was in. Coming awaiting for the end of the Babylonian captivity. So Ezra is talking to the angel about the time of the end. Not the end of the Babylonian captivity, but the end of that age. So now Ezra is saying, hey, can you give me some information pertaining to the end? And now this is what Second Ezra is actually speaking on. Things pertaining to the end, not the end of the world, but the end of the age as we showed yesterday. So, behold, the time shall come that these tokens which I have told thee shall come to pass, and the bride shall appear. So this is one thing that we have to see. It's supposed to be an appearing of the bride. But where do we find that at in the Bible? where you go to Revelation 21. Revelation 21, we're going to start at verses 1. We're going to read verses 1 and 2. This is what it states. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. So, Revelation 21, 1 and 2, it brings in the New Jerusalem, which would be the bride of Christ. That New Jerusalem. But notice, New Jerusalem comes in after the first heaven and earth were passed away. And I like how John the Revelator, through inspiration of the Holy Spirit, allowed us to know what these things actually meant within the literature. You don't have to run back and forth to try to find out what all of this, what all these words mean. When you ask a person today, what is the new heaven and the new earth? A lot of people try to think about the world. It's about a new planet Earth coming and etc. But in the ancient Israelite mindset, their heaven and earth depicted upon their world of worship and that world of the covenant that they lived in. So let me show you here. Verse 1, I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth were passed away. Verse 2 tells you what that new heaven and new earth is. I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem. So, if New Jerusalem is the new heaven and the new earth, by default, Old Jerusalem had to be the first heaven and the first earth. So what happened in the heaven and earth? Everything was created within the heaven and earth. You had people being born inside of the heaven and earth. You have animals being born inside of the heaven and earth. You have dominion, people having dominion over the animals per se in the heavens and the earth. You have the vegetation being grown, a prosperous land, and etc. This is how they viewed the old Jerusalem. It was their heaven and earth. Their temple was their Garden of Eden. That's how they actually viewed it themselves. It was their creation. So, now, I'm not saying that they had the correct view because once you go and listen to Christ, Christ actually explained what it actually meant. But to these people, this was their heaven and earth. So, they're awaiting the bride to come, and we find out the bride actually arrives when ancient Jerusalem is judged. So, Second Esdras is on that timeline. Second Esdras, the one that we just read, which was, let's go back there again. It was Second Esdras 7:26. Behold, the time shall come that these tokens which I have told thee shall come to pass. So these are the things, the judgment on Jerusalem. And the bride shall appear. So this Ezra, he's in one captivity that came against Jerusalem. And the angel is telling him about the last captivity that's going to come against Jerusalem. The final captivity. See, Ezra was in pretty much the first captivity that the southern kingdom went through. Before this, we know the Assyrians took out the northern kingdom. But for the southern kingdom, the first captivity they would have went through would have been the Babylonians. So he's in the Babylonian captivity learning about when the last captivity was going to occur at Jerusalem and no more captivities of Jerusalem afterwards, only righteousness and unrighteousness will be there. So now, we also, so now, we're good with that one. So now, we're going to go to 2nd Ezra 7:27 through 29. So we finna actually, this is finna get good now. It says, Hold on. It says the audio. Hold on. Give me 1 second, y'all. Let me turn my audio up a little bit. I was told that my audio on Facebook was a little low. All right, so now hopefully that's better right there. Now I try to talk a little bit better. Let me try to get the mic closer to my mouth. So now we're going to go to Second Esdras 7:27 through 29. And this is what it says. And whosoever is delivered from the foresaid evils shall see my wonders. For my son Jesus shall be revealed with those that be with him, and they that remain shall rejoice within 400 years. Verse 29. After these years shall my son Christ die, and all men that have life. And this right here, this might puzzle some people. When people read this, they're like, okay, Jesus is going to be, they're going to rejoice within 400 years. And then all the people that have life is going to die with Christ. All of these things means something. But we're going to go through what this stuff is actually talking about. So first thing first, them rejoicing within 400 years. So this can be an estimated time period from Ezra to the time of Christ coming on the scene. Now, this is how the author of Second Ezra estimated it. So within the time period of Ezra to Christ should have been like 400 odd years, but this is kind of piggybacking off of the quote unquote 400 years that we find in Genesis about the people being afflicted for 400 years, and then after the 400 years was over, they will be able to rejoice because they was going to go through the second Exodus. So this is well, they was going through that first Exodus into the promised land. Okay, my bad. So hopefully this is better now. That 400 years rejoice within 400 years. That's piggybacking off of the 400 years found in Genesis when they was under bondage, and then 400 years into the future, they went through the second Exodus where they was able to rejoice because they was going to enter into the promised land. So this is what Second Ezra is trying to do. It's trying to expound on that time period and teach about a second Exodus using symbols from the Torah or the Tanakh right here, the Torah. So you have to understand how the ancient Israelites wrote. They wrote in a context to make you think of older passages so you can understand the correct application. So here, this is talking about the older Exodus. Now you should think about, okay, so if this is using the same imagery, the same things about the older Exodus, then obviously this is have to be about the new Exodus. So let's keep going now. Verse 30. 29. And after these years shall my son Christ die, and all men that have life. So, first of all, we should think about where does Christ die at? So we got 400 years, and within the 400 years, then Christ is going to die. Well, let's show where he's pulling this from. Where's he? What he is thinking about? So we're going to go into the prophets. We're going to go into Daniel. We're going to go into Daniel chapter 9, verse 26. Verse 25. And then I guess I can read it out of the Masoretic. I'm finna read it out of the Septuagint first. And thou shalt know and understand that from the going forth of the command for the answer and for the building of Jerusalem. Notice all of these things is dealing with Jerusalem. The new bride is New Jerusalem. Ezra was in a captivity that happened from Jerusalem, and he's going to be pulling from Daniel, which is about Jerusalem. So people want it to be about other things: United States of America, Russia, China, even some other continents, Australia, and etc. The Bible is all in these contexts, all about Jerusalem, which was inside of the promised land, the land of Canaan. So we got it here. And thou shalt know and understand that from the going forth of the command for the answer and for the building of Jerusalem until Christ the Prince, there shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. And then the time shall return, and the street shall be built, and the wall, and the time shall be exalted. So now, we're going to go to the KJV version of it, and we're going to read Daniel 9. We're going to read verses 25 and 26 now. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto the Messiah, the Prince, shall be 7 weeks, and 62 weeks. And the street shall be built again, and the wall, even in troublous times. And after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. So right here, the cutting off of Messiah, and I had to read it from here because the Septuagint, it has it worded a little different. The Septuagint says, and after the 62 weeks, the anointed one shall be destroyed, and there is no judgment in him. And people will be like, well, the anointed one could be any priest, because the priests were anointed, which is true. The priest indeed was anointed, and you could say, well, it could have been a king because the kings was anointed too. That is true. The kings were anointed. This point is, though, that this is actually the king and the high priest, which was the Messiah, so he would fit both bills. But if people don't like it, I would rather go to the KJV, so it actually tells you that this is about the Messiah, the Christ, being cut off. So in 2nd Ezra, right here, we are at this point. It says, after these years shall my son Christ die. So we are here in Daniel 9, 25, 26 with the death of Christ. And he says all men that have life is going to die with Christ. But here we're going to show you that this is about the death of Christ. And what people would do, dealing with this information we have right here, since we are on Daniel 9, dealing with the 70 weeks, and we can clearly see that Christ died within this time period that Daniel is talking about. But what they would do, they would kind of take it and make it be in the future. They'll take it from Christ's time period, and then they would fast forward it 2,000 years in the future and say that we are still waiting on this to occur. And we say, no, we're not waiting on this to occur. This happened in the past. So we're going to actually put an end to that argument today. So once we keep reading in Daniel 9:26, I'm going to read exactly what it says. It says, and after 62 weeks, the anointed one shall be destroyed. That is the Messiah. This is what 2nd Ezra 7:29 is talking about. And there is no judgment in him. And he shall destroy the city and the sanctuary with the prince that is coming. They shall be cut off with a flood and to the end of the war. So he's telling you this is about the war. And to the end of the war, which is rapidly completed, he shall appoint the city to desolations. So we would tell people, okay, so this is about the war that was coming against Jerusalem by the Roman army. So this happened around 70 AD. And some people would say, yeah, okay. And other people will be like, no, this is talking about a future war. You only see 70 AD. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go into history where these events actually took place so we can put the right perspective on Daniel 9, 25, 26, and 27, so we could put the right perspective on 2nd Esdras 7, 26 through 35. So we're going to go to Josephus, War of the Jews. Now, I don't care if you like Josephus or not. Oh, he's a traitor. You can't trust him and all that other stuff that people say. Josephus was a first century Jew, a first century priest. On his mother's side, he was royalty on dealing with the priesthood. On his father's side, he still was a descendant of a priest. So he was in the priestly family on both sides. That's one. He was a first century historian about what happened. He was a first century eyewitness. So he was an eyewitness, he was a historian, he was a priest, he was a captive. So he was all of these things, and I should not believe him because he didn't want to commit suicide with his brothers. Instead, he said, hey, don't you guys know the prophecy? Rome is supposed to destroy Jerusalem. So why am I going to fight against prophecy? That's like fighting against God, which is common sense. If they already knew Rome was supposed to destroy Jerusalem, and he's living in the timeline when Rome is destroying Jerusalem, should he try to fight against the prophecy? Or should he tell his brothers, I'm going to go to the Roman side and I'm going to be their captive because this is what was said was going to happen in the first place. So while his brothers decided to commit suicide, he waited till they all killed each other. Then he was like, okay, I'm here now. Y'all can take me captive, which is what a lot of us would have done, tell you the truth. But now, I'm going to go to War of the Jews, Book 4, Chapter 6, Section 3. I'm going to read lines 386 through 388. It's found on page 818 if you got the hard copy. And if you don't have the hard copy, I'm just going to read it from the PDF version that is showed up on screen. So, this is what Josephus stated about this same prophecy in Daniel 9 that we just read. So let me scroll down. I'm going to start at these men. So here, these men therefore trampled. Well, I'm going to start at 386 and I'm going to read down to 388. These men therefore trampled upon all the laws of men and laughed at the laws of God. So these are the zealots. These are the Jews of the first century. And for the oracles of the prophets, they ridiculed them as the tricks of jugglers. Yet did these prophets foretell many things concerning the rewards of virtue and the punishments of vice. You remember when Christ said, when I come, I'm going to reward every man according to their works. Here, Josephus let it be known that that meant that people were going to be rewarded for their virtue and other people was going to be rewarded for their punishments. Some people was able to escape. They fled into the mountains. That's called them having their names written in the book of life because they lived through that. So their reward was life. The other people who did not listen, who was unrighteous, they was rewarded with punishment, with captivity. So that's that punishment, that's their rewards that Christ was coming to give. But anyway, let's keep reading. Foretold many things concerning the rewards of virtue and punishments of vice, which, when these zealots violated, they occasioned the fulfilling of those very prophecies belonging to their own country. For there was a certain ancient oracle of those men, that the city should then be taken and the sanctuary burnt by right of war, when a sedition should invade the Jews, and their own hand should pollute the temple of God. Now, while these zealots did not quite disbelieve these predictions, they made themselves the instruments of their accomplishments. So, first thing first, you have to understand that prophecy in Daniel 9:27, 26, 27, 28, people wanted to be about Rome or China or other people coming in and destroying Jerusalem. No. Josephus, the Jew, the priest, said that that prophecy was about what Jerusalem was going to suffer by her own countrymen. The inhabitants of Jerusalem, those Jews, were said to go inside of Jerusalem and destroy it themselves. So we're going to go back to Daniel 9 in just a second. What a lot of people wanted this to be about foreign people coming in, Josephus said, no, that prophecy was actually about our own countrymen coming in and destroying and polluting the temple themselves. Okay, so that's one. I also want to go to War of the Jews, Book 6, Chapter 2, Section 1. I'm going to read 94 and 109. So let me go there in my hard copy. So we at 6 to 1. And this is what it states. I'm going to read 94. Well, let me read 93 through 94 first. Because a lot of people don't understand what all of this is talking about. And they try to throw it on other people instead of letting it be on the people it deserves to be on. Right? The Bible is not a racist book. It's not a book about racism. It's a book about truth. The Father is no respecter of persons. No matter what blood, no matter what skin pigment, none of that stuff mattered. The Holy Spirit told the truth. So, the first captivity that happened because of Babylon was because what the Jews did. The last captivity that came from the Roman army occurred because of what the Jews did. The only difference is the Babylonians came in and destroyed Jerusalem first, but on this one, we have this happening at the hand of the Jews. So let's find out what else happened at the hand of the Jews during that same time period, because Daniel 9 is going to be touched upon again by Josephus. So we're going to read lines 93 and 94, chapter 2. It says, "And now Titus gave orders to his soldiers that were with him to dig up the foundations of the tower of Antonia and make him a ready passage for his army to come, while he himself had Josephus brought to him. For he had been informed that on that very day, which is the 17th day of Tammuz, the sacrifice called the daily sacrifice had failed and had not been offered to God for want of men to offer it, and that the people were grievously troubled at it, and commanded him to say the same things to John that he had said before, that if he had any malicious inclination for fighting, he might come out with as many of the men as he pleased in order to fight without the danger of destroying either his city or temple. But that he desired he would not defile the temple nor thereby offend against God. So, in other words, what he's saying right here, the Israelites, those Jews that were inside of Jerusalem getting ready for the Roman army to come in, they were the ones that were fighting each other on the inside, and they caused their own daily sacrifice to not occur. Once again, they were the cause of their own daily sacrifice not to occur. And we're gonna read down a little bit further. We're gonna go to 109, right? And this right here it says, let me find it. And who is there that does not know what the writings of the ancient prophets contain in them, and particularly that oracle which is just now going to be fulfilled upon this miserable city. For they foretold that this city should be then taken when somebody shall begin the slaughter of his own countrymen. And are are not both the city and the entire temple now full of dead bodies of your countrymen? It is God, therefore, it is God Himself who is bringing on this fire to purge that city and temple by means of the Romans, and is going to pluck up this city, which is full of your pollutions. So Josephus, he touched on it again. So once we go back to Daniel chapter 9, verse 26, and after the 62 weeks, the anointed one shall be destroyed. That is Christ. And there is no judgment in him. He didn't come with no judgment yet. And he shall destroy the city and the sanctuary with the prince that is coming. The prince that was coming was an Israelite, was a Jew, a leader of the Zealots. It wasn't a Roman or a Catholic or whatever people do. It was an ethnic Jew, the leader of the Zealots. And he brought the Zealots in, and what did they do? They destroyed the city and the sanctuary. The Israelites, the Jews did that. They did it from the inside, and Rome came in and finished the job after the Zealots had ramshacked Jerusalem to bits. So now let's keep going. They shall be cut off with the flood, and to the end of the war, which is rapidly completed, he shall appoint the city to desolations. So this is the time period that Second Esdras is talking about. He's talking about when Christ was destroyed, when Christ was crucified, and then about 40 years later, the Zealots came in, or it could have been like 37 years later, the Zealots came in and destroyed Jerusalem. And then 3 years after that, the Roman army finished it off. Now, if my dates are a little off, you can go in history and tweak it yourself, but it's around the same time period. So now, we're going to go to Matthew 24, verse number 9. He says, then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. So, back in 2nd Esdras, it stated that, and after these years shall my son Christ die, and all men that have life So according to Matthew 24, he was telling the disciples that they would be killed also. And if you go to Matthew 23, this is what Christ told the scribes and the Pharisees. Verse 34. Wherefore, behold, I send unto you prophets and wise men and scribes, and some of them ye shall kill and crucify, and some of them you shall scourge in your synagogues and persecute them from city to city. So all of the men that had life would be, well, let's keep going, and then I can make the statement. Go to John 6. I'm going to read verse 63. It is the spirit that quickeneth or make alive. The flesh profiteth nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life. So the men that had life, that died, was the men that had the word of the Lord. The men that believed on the word of the Lord, the men that taught the word of the Lord, these will be the people that had life. And Christ told them that they would be persecuted and put to death. Then he went and told the ones that was going to do the persecution of those people that you guys are going to put to death and persecute everybody that I send to you all. So we have the story right there. This is talking about what was going to occur in the first century. Christ was going to die first, which is Daniel 9, and then after him, there was going to be a tribulation period where the people that followed him was going to die too. So this is 2nd Esdras 7:29. That's what that is about. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to mute my mic real fast and see if anybody on Clubhouse want to say anything before I continue on into the next verse. All right, thank you, brother. Brother Joseph, if you want, I mean, brother Demetrius, you want to say anything? Oh, yes, sir. Okay, well, I appreciate you. And how you doing, brother Tony? I see you pop in. Uh, and hopefully, let me check because they said my volume on Facebook was low. So I'm gonna hop on Facebook real fast just to make sure I got good volume, and then I'm gonna continue to go on. So one sec. Are you good, my brother? I'm doing both of them. I'm just trying to make sure I got volume. Yes, sir. I appreciate that, and I do got volume too, so I appreciate that, my brother. Yeah, I'm trying to hit them. Yeah, I might have to put them all together somehow. And put them there. But yeah, hold on. Let me switch. So yeah, hopefully this will be better. I might have to just wear my mic on this side, get closer to my mouth. But yeah, and thank you for coming up, brother Tony. And I'm finna continue, and we're almost at the goal post. I'm finna continue now. So now, once we get to 2nd Esdras 30, this is the one that kind of throw people off. And the world shall be turned unto the old silence 7 days, like as in the former judgments, so that no man shall remain. And when they get to that right there, hold on now, the world turned into the old silence like 7 days, like the former judgments with an S, so that no man shall remain. What is this actually talking about? Well, if you understand that 2nd Esdras is actually going off of Daniel chapter 9, and he done got us up into the Messiah, into the Messiah dying, then what happens next in Daniel chapter 9? we're finna show you what happens in Daniel chapter 9. Daniel 9, let me get back there again. So Daniel 9, verse number, let me see here, 27. And 1 week shall establish the covenant with many. And in the midst of the week, my sacrifice and drink offering shall be taken away. So we done already read when the drink offering was taken away. That was on the 17th of what we read. Was it Tammuz? But whatever, we just went to it. So that's the same time period that Daniel 9:27 is talking about. And then we got them putting on the temple the abomination of desolations, which we can show when that occurred also. But here, notice, 1 week the covenant was going to be established. And in the KJV, it's worded like this. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall call the sacrifice and oblation to cease, and for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation. So, how long is a week? 7 days. So a week is 7 days. When we go back to Ezra chapter 7, keeping it in order, and after 7 days, that is the week right there that Daniel is talking about. This is that last week that Daniel is talking about. Once again, this is that last week that Daniel is talking about. This is the 70th week. And after 7 days, so this is after the 7 days, the world, sorry, my bad. Let me go back to verse 30, my bad. And the world shall be turned into the old silence 7 days. So, according to Daniel, when we're reading about that covenant that lasts 7 days or 1 week, Second Ezra said that is kind of like a week of silence. And he explains what that is like. Like as in the former judgments. So when you went through the old judgment that occurred, there was always a period that people reflected upon what just occurred. It was always a time period of no more fighting when the captivity and all of that stuff happened and occurred. No more fighting, just people rebuilding, people trying to get their thoughts back together, a time of reflection. So this is what this is about. He's confirming the covenant with many for 1 week after the destruction of the city. Here, after the destruction of the city, when the people are dying, then it's like a silence of 7 days, 1 week of reflection. And so no man shall remain. So the judgment was going to take away all men, all men. Another, we can talk about what that means in just a second. But I want us to look at Daniel so we can actually see what's going on here. So at Daniel, because we're going to see what this no man is going to remain and all of this stuff, right? And 1 week shall establish the covenant with many, and in the midst of the week my sacrifice and offering shall be taken away, and on the temple shall be the abomination of desolations, and at the end of time an end shall be put to the desolation. So there was going to be abomination of desolation set up, and then at the time of the end, that desolation was going to finally be over. So let's see if we can find that in Josephus first. Let me see here. Now I actually don't have this one and Josephus highlighted, but you better believe I will be able to find it quickly and in a hurry. And I have already found it. So once you go to War of the Jews, book 6. See how all this stuff is happening in book 6? If you guys have not read book 6 of The War of the Jews by Josephus, please do. Once you get done reading book 6, and when you read book 6, let me add this little extra to it. Have your Bible open, looking at all end time prophecies or time of the end prophecies. You guys should get a list of every time of the end prophecy, put it right there in front of you, and then read book 6 from the War of the Jews. And once you're done, I guarantee you, you won't be telling people we're still waiting for the time of the end. Now, you might tell people, well, it's a dual prophecy. It's got to happen again. I mean, you might tell people that. Some people do that. But if you are honest with the text, you're going to say, oh, I see indeed how all of these things have already happened. You brothers are on point. So, once we go to War of the Jews, book 6, chapter 6, I'm just going to read section 1 of line 316 by itself. It says, and now the Romans, upon the flight of the seditious into the city, and upon the burning of the holy house itself, and of all the buildings round about it, brought their ensigns to the temple and set them over against its eastern gate. Think about that eastern world. The eastern word was actually a word that dealt with spiritual, dealt with God. A lot of things happened toward the east that dealt with God in the ancient Israelite mindset. So they set the ensigns over against the eastern gate. And there did they offer sacrifices to them, and there did they make Titus imperator with the greatest acclamations of joy. So the Romans brought their idols, their ensigns, inside of the temple and start doing sacrifices to it. So if you don't think that's the abomination of desolation being set up, you can also look at all of those dead, polluted bodies that was inside of the temple, that the Jews created. So there's an abomination of desolation that the Jews made, and then you have the abomination of desolation here that the Gentiles made around the same time period. So you can pick and choose your abomination of desolation that you want, because they both happen around the same time period. So this is Daniel 9:27. This is around that time period when the Romans came in and sieged Jerusalem. And 1 week shall establish the covenant with many, and in the midst of the week, my sacrifice and drink offering shall be taken away. Well, who did the sacrifices and the drink offerings? This will be something that the priest would have to do. So if the priests are destroyed, the priests are the ones that were supposed to do the worship to the Father for the citizens. So when the priests are destroyed, the sacrifice and drink offerings are also taken away, allowing the temple to be able to be in the under the order of any unrighteous person that's there. So when the priests left, when the priests got killed, the zealots actually went through a slaying of the priest. So when the priests died by these Israelites, they are able to, then others are able to come in and do their own sacrificial system or their sacrificial worship like the Romans did, or you can look at the dead bodies. Regardless, the priest died. So when we have it spoken of in, let me get there, in 2nd Esdras, it says that no man shall remain. I take it that this is talking about the priest. I take it this is talking about the priest that was wiped out. So let's see how Daniel 9 worded this, and then we're going to show you how 2nd Ezra worded what happened next. So now this is what happens next after the temple is destroyed and the abomination of desolation. Well, this is what happened when the abomination of desolation is set up and then the temple is destroyed. This is what happens next according to Daniel 9:27. And 1 week shall establish the covenant with many. And in the midst of the week, my sacrifice and drink offering shall be taken away, and on the temple shall be the abomination of desolations. We read that that happened in the first century. And at the end of time, an end shall be put to the desolation. So let's fast forward ourselves inside of Daniel. So Daniel 11. Let's see if we can find when this sacrifice is taken away. Daniel 11, 30 and 31. For the Assyrians, which is the Romans, issuing forth shall come against him, and he shall be brought low, and shall return, and shall be incensed against the holy covenant. And he shall do thus, and he shall return, and have intelligence with them that have forsaken the holy covenant. Verse 31. And seeds, more than one, shall spring up out of him, and they shall profane the sanctuary of strength, and they shall remove the perpetual sacrifice and make the abomination desolate. So this is Daniel 11:33. So Daniel 9 verses 27 is Daniel 11 verse 31. And once you keep going on in Daniel chapter 12, it states, let me find it, verse number 11. And from the time of the removal of the perpetual sacrifice, that's the daily sacrifice, we read in Josephus when that happened. This is Daniel 9 when the sacrifice is taken away. This is Daniel 11. So this is all the same time period. And from the time of the removal of the perpetual sacrifice, when the abomination of desolation shall be set up. We read that in Josephus. We didn't read that in Daniel 9, Daniel 11. There shall be 1,290 days. So listen to that time period. There should be 1,290 days. Verse number 12. Blessed is he that waits and come to the 1,335 days. Hold on now. Now, here, once the abomination of desolation is set up, there's going to be a time period afterwards that when it was reached, the people was going to be blessed. So there's not an ending taught here. There's no end. But we see a blessing coming upon the people that reach this specific date. Verse 13, but go thou and rest, for there are yet days and seasons to the fulfillment of the end. So now we find out that the 1,335 days is the end, period. But there was going to be times and seasons until the fulfillment of the end, and thou shalt stand in thy lot at the end of the days. So now notice, this is what I really wanted to notice right here. When the fulfillment of the end occurred, then Daniel was going to stand in his lot at the end of those days. Daniel would have, in other words, he said, Daniel, you're gonna be dead. You're gonna die. But when the end comes, you're going to stand, which is what? A resurrection. He's going to, from death to life, he was going to stand at the end of the days. The problem is that people have today is between 1,290 days, listen to right here, from the removal of the daily sacrifice, when the abomination should be set up, there's only going to be 1,290 days. So you got the perpetual sacrifice, you got the abomination desolation set up. You only got 1,290 days, and then you got what's that? 70? Is it 75 or how many? 45 more odd days before the 1,335 days is met, and that was going to be the time of the end. So Daniel put the resurrection close to the time of the abomination of desolation being set up. Once again, Daniel put the resurrection close to the time period of the abomination of desolation being set up. In fact, let me see if I can go to my calculator real fast just to calculate it. 1,290 days and 1,335 days. That's 45 days. So 40 Daniel. That's not me. That's not me. I didn't write Daniel. I wasn't around. Daniel put the events dealing with the perpetual sacrifice leaving, the abomination of desolation set up, and the 1,335 days when the time was going to end, and Daniel stand up in his lot. Daniel put it within 45 days of each other. Not thousands of years, 45 days. So to me, that's close. That's not far away. So we actually have the resurrection happening after the abomination of desolation being set up. So in Daniel 9, this is what Daniel 9 said about it. And on the temple shall be the sorry about that. On the temple shall be the abomination of desolations. And at the end of the time, an end shall be put to the desolation, which has to be around that 1,335 days time period, which is only 45 days after the abomination of desolation is set up, if my timing is correct. But even if it's not, it's close in time instead of far in the future. So now let's see how Second Esdras put this. Second Esdras said, and after 7 days, so this is the end of it, right? This is the 1,335th day. And after 7 days, the world that yet awaketh not shall be raised up, and that shall die that is corrupt. So now let me read it again. And after 7 days, the world. So according to Daniel 9, at the end of the 7 days, when the end of the abominations is over with, according to Second Esdras, that's when the resurrection occurred. Let me state it again. According to Daniel 9, when the abomination of desolation was set up, right? And at the end of that abomination of desolation, when the temple got the abomination of desolation, at the end of the time, there was going to be an end put to the desolations. With Daniel 12 said 1,335, the 1,335th day, according to Second Esdras, that's the time period in which the resurrection occurs. The people, remember Daniel was going to stand up in his lot. This is that time period. That happens at the end of the 70th week. At the end of the week, that's when that happened. It says, that yet awaketh not shall be raised up, and that shall die that is corrupt. So all the corruptible people will die. Everything that's corruptible will be taken away, will die. That would be your desolations. So now, this is how you guys got to actually understand how the Bible works. So now let's try to show you how the Bible works. According to Daniel 9:27, the temple shall be on the temple shall be the abomination of desolation, and at the end of time there shall be put an end to the desolation. So once you run that with Revelation chapter 20, when the resurrection occurs, Revelation chapter 20, verse number 11 and 12. I saw a great white throne and him that sat up on it, from whose face, the earth and heaven fled away, and there was no place found for them. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God, and the books were opened. And then another book were opened, the book of life, and the dead was judged out of those things which were written in the books according to their works. Then the sea gave up the dead, and then death and hell was delivered up, and the dead that were with them, and they was judged, and death and hell was cast into the lake of fire, being the second death. That had to occur around the time where an end was put to the desolations. So Revelation chapter 20, when death and hell is being thrown into the lake of fire, that's the end of the desolations. That's the end of the abominations that occurred. Once again, Daniel 9, when the abomination of desolation came, and when there was going to be a war, and then the end of the desolations that was determined, when that occurred, then it all was thrown into the lake of fire. What I'm trying to show you all, this is the same time period. Daniel called it the end of desolations. Revelation called it a judgment of the dead, small, great, death, hell, all thrown into the lake of fire. John the Revelator called it that. Daniel called it the end of desolations. Josephus told us all of this happened when when the Romans was coming in and finished destroying Jerusalem, which was 70 A.D. So we can't separate them when they all go together. They just stated different ways. So I think that's remarkable, and that happened at the end of the 70th week. But if that don't do it for you, right? If you say, "Hey, fam, I don't know about that," let me show you. Let's keep reading in Second Ezra. So Second Ezra also say verse 32, and the earth shall restore those that are asleep in her. This is Daniel 12, 1 and 2. And so shall the dust those that dwell in silence, and the secret places shall deliver. Hold on, let me make sure I didn't get off. Okay, I did. And the secret places shall deliver those souls that were committed unto them. And the Most High shall appear upon the seat of judgment, and misery shall pass away, and the long suffering shall have an end. So, for my people who don't know, this would be Daniel. Let's go back here. This would be Daniel 12 and 1 and 2. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people. That will be the southern kingdom. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as was not since there was a nation, even to that same time. There will be the tribulation period. There will be the time that the zealots are coming in and destroying the city and the sanctuary. There will be the time where the saints were being destroyed by the Jews, the people, the followers of Christ. All of this is within that time period. And those Jews not only was destroying the Christians, they were destroying their brothers and sisters also. And at that time, thy people shall be delivered, everyone that shall be found written in the book. Eventually, that war inside ceased for a second. The one of the generals on the outside stopped, and he left, allowing the Christians to flee. But I didn't went over this later on. I might be paraphrasing it wrong, but it's around that time period. Daniel 12:2. And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. This is Revelation chapter 20. So in Revelation 20, this is the resurrection of the dead and the people being judged. So, and we read in Revelation 21, the bride came down, right? So in the Masoretic, let's see how Daniel 9 is written in the Masoretic. Right here. In the Masoretic, it says, even until, so and for the overspreading and abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. So let's look at the word consummation right there. Even until the consummation, a completion, completely, also destruction, and etc. But if you know anything about consummation, let me make sure this is right, because I believe consummation is also a wedding term. I believe let me look at that real fast, because I know you got to consummate your right, because you got to consummate your marriage. Yeah, so if consummation is a wedding term, then the way that it goes together is because at the consummation of the destruction, what happens in Revelation 21? The bride comes down. So in Revelation 20, the destruction is being consummated for Revelation 21 for the bride to meet her husband. So these are all, I think this is why they use the word consummation, because it's all marriage terminology that shows us that marriage was going to happen around the time of judgment. I just wanted to throw that out there. So we finna get ready to uh, call it an end. So now we see that at the end of that 70th week, the world itself was judged, right? Or the world of Israel was judged, or the resurrection occurred. So once we read 7:33, that was it. And that also would be, hold on, Daniel 7, verse number 10. Daniel 7 and 10. Let's see here. Daniel 7:10 says, a stream of fire rushed from forth before him, thousands ministered to him, and 10,000s of myriads attended upon him. The judgment sat, and the books were open. This is Daniel 7 and 10. So that also is the time of the resurrection. And notice in Daniel 7, 11, 12, that didn't stop time period. Things still happen after that. Uh, so now we're going to go to Ezra 7, 34 and 35, and we are almost done. So Ezra 7, 34 and 35, it says, but judgment only shall remain. Truth shall stand, and faith shall wax strong. So that was the point of it. Let me switch back over so we can see. So this was the point of it right here. After that judgment happened, then truth stood and faith waxed strong. Verse 35. And the work shall follow, and the reward shall be showed, and the good deeds shall be of force, and wicked deeds shall bear no rule. So this is how he's exegeting uh, that Daniel passage, dealing with a judgment, as well as you can use the same thing for Revelation uh, 20, Revelation 22 and 12. When all of these things occur, what happens? Revelation 22:12 states, and behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me to give every man according as his work shall be. Verse 14, blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have right to the tree of life and may enter in through the gates into the city. This is exactly what was said in the Apocrypha, 2nd Ezra 7. The work shall follow them, the reward shall be showed, of the wicked deeds shall bear no rule. So no more ruling, no more rulership of wicked deeds That's when the dominion was taken away. The wicked deeds will no longer have rulership. When the beast lost dominion, that meant his wicked deeds were taken away. He could not control the children wickedly anymore. There's no more. Christ took the power of death from them. You can't threaten them with death anymore. You can't say, I'm going to put you to death. You can't threaten them with being martyred. You can't threaten them with none of that because they say we don't fear death anymore. So there's no more, there was not a way a person could have dominion over the saints anymore because they was all under Christ. They no longer lived in fear. No more fear of death, of life, or any of that stuff. So, facts waxing strong and all of that, that's them actually having access. Faith waxing strong is them having access to the tree of life. And now we're going to go down to verse 42 through 45 and 50 through 59, and we'll be done. So now, listen to how the end of the exegesis of Daniel 7, Daniel 9, Daniel 12, Revelation 20, etc. Listen to how this all is summed up. So this is 2nd Esdras 7:42. He answered me and said, this present life is not the end, where much glory doth abide. Therefore have they prayed for the weak. But the day of doom shall be the end of this time, and the beginning of the mortality for to come, wherein corruption is past. Intemperance is at an end. Infidelity is cut off. Righteousness is grown, and truth is sprung up. Then shall no man be able to save him that is destroyed, nor to oppress him that had gotten the victory. So you can't oppress people. You can't oppress people that's victorious in Christ. So now I'm going to go down to 50 to 59 and we'll be done. And that there is promised us an everlasting hope. Well, let me go to 49. For what profit is it unto us if there be promised us an immortal time, whereas we have done the works that bring death? He said, so why are you promising, why is there a promise of immortal life? In fact, my bad, you all. I got to do it. I just got to do it. I got to start at verse 48. I just got to do it. I'm sorry. Let me do this real fast. Verse 48. I got to. It's in my eyeball. I can't get it out. It says, "O thou Adam, Adam, what hast thou done? For though it was that thou sinned, thou art not fallen alone, but we all that come of thee." Everybody after the image of Adam. For what profit is it unto us, if there be promised us an immortal time, whereas we have done the works that bring death? That's the image of the Lord, the image of man. And that there is promised us an everlasting hope, whereas ourselves, being most wicked, are made vain. And that there are laid up for us dwellings of health and safety, whereas we have lived wickedly. And that the glory of the Most High is kept to defend them that have led a wary life, whereas we have walked in the most wicked ways of all. And that there should be showed a paradise, that's the Garden of Eden, whose fruit endureth forever, wherein is security and medicine. Let me go up. Since we shall not enter into it. So where's the security and medicine? You remember in Revelation, the leaves was for the healing of the nations and etc. The security was in the Garden of Eden. The medicine was in the Garden of Eden. Verse 54. For we have walked in unpleasant places, and that the faces of them which have used abstinence shall shine above the stars, whereas our faces shall be blacker than darkness. So here, 755, that's touching on Daniel 12, 2 through 4, where the wise was going to shine like the stars in the sky. But notice here also, he said the faces of them that shine are those that used abstinence. And we know abstinence is a person that has not had sex. But the deeper meaning of this is the 144,000 were virgins. So he's actually touching on the understanding of the 144,000. So these people who had these shiny faces in Daniel chapter 12, according to Second Esdras, would have been those that was the 144,000. It would have been them who had abstinence, those virgins that shine like the stars. And we know this is not talking about people that didn't have sex. So let's get this. That's a priestly thing. Not having sex, virginity. That was about purification, and in order to be a priest and do the service of God, you could not have had sex. You had to not go into your wife, I believe, for 3 days or so. So this is all priestly motif. Verse 56. For while we lived and committed iniquity, we consider not that we should begin to suffer for it after death. So now we have to understand. Second Esdras, when he was talking about this stuff, he was saying that this is actually about the dead saints, the saints that had really died, D-I-E-D, not the spiritual dead, but the ones that was really dead, like physically dead, and then they went down to Hades awaiting resurrection to go inside of the kingdom. So he put the time period dealing with Daniel's 70 weeks, the consummation of those weeks, the resurrection after those weeks, and etc. He put this dealing with the dead saints. So this is important for him to be looking at the afterlife. So he's concentrating on the afterlife right here. Not the people that's on planet Earth, but the people in the afterlife. So now, verse 57. Then answered he me and said, this is the condition of the battle, which man that is born upon the earth shall fight. Let me state that again. So this is how they're breaking it down in Second Esdras. After we read all of those things in Second Esdras, dealing with the tribulation period and etc., dealing with the men dying and the resurrection happening in 70 AD, blah blah this and that, and second, well not blah blah, but you guys get what I'm saying. And then you have the conversation now that said that, man, the things that Adam did, it's kind of hard to shake off. I mean, people are walking around living wickedly. They know what they're supposed to be doing correctly, but they're choosing to live wickedly. And then the angel is telling him, this is the battle of life. He didn't state that it was going to be easy. He said this is the battle of life. So let me read it again. Then answered he me and said, this is the condition of the battle, which man that is born upon the earth shall fight. That if he be overcome, he shall suffer as thou hast said. But if he get the victory, he shall receive the thing that I say. I'm going to read 59. For this is the life whereof Moses spake unto the people while he lived, saying, choose thee life that thou mayest live. So what the author of Second Esdras said, when Moses was bringing the law, and when Moses told them to choose life, he was telling them overcome all of the wickedness of the earth and don't forget about your heavenly Father. Don't forget about the things the Heavenly Father requires of you. So this was the point according to Second Esdras. Esdras was looking at all of the bad stuff, right? He was looking at all of the things that came along with living this life. He was looking at the judgment scene and the scenario and how people are going to be damned when they died and how they was going to be separated from the Father. And the angel was like, "Hey, Esdras, uh, everybody has to go through this. The point is, you have to choose to do the right thing in order to receive this promise of no more pain, no more suffering, no more suffering, no more sorrow, and etc." Which we find out happens inside of the Garden of Eden. So he's saying that if you live a righteous life on earth and overcome, then your soul, after you die, will be able to rest inside of the Garden of Eden. People call that Christianity. I call it Second Esdras, and this is what the Bible is actually teaching itself. So, that being said, this is how Second Esdras actually exegeted Daniel uh, 70 weeks, and we can tell because we just went through the historical application in Josephus that all of these things have happened. Daniel's second 70 weeks had been fulfilled in the first century. The judgment, the great white throne judgment in Revelation chapter 20 occurred in the first century. Now we are living in the new world, looking for the same thing that they was looking for in the old world. As what I mean looking for, I'm talking about peace within our environment in our world. So they was looking for peace. We was looking for peace. We looking for peace now. The problem is they did not know how to obtain it, but Christ showed us how to obtain it. So when I say we're looking for it, I'm talking about the people who have not obtained it yet. Some of us have already obtained that peace. And I am done with that. Now, if anybody want to speak and etc., they can come up. Anybody want to add anything else to it, they can. I will mute my mic. And thank everyone for on Facebook for listening in. You guys have been wonderful. And I'm finna get ready to call it a night. Thank you.
Thank you for clicking on the channel.
AOSD.
Assembly of Sound Doctrine Channel.
Assembly of Sound Doctrine.
AOSD, RPK, Resurrection Prophet Kingdom. Like, subscribe, share. Let's go.
Come get a lesson. I'm teaching blessings. No need for guessing. I'm knowledge testing. It's truth time. The wise will shine. And the wicked will pine. I'm a righteous kind. Right out of trouble, I'm keeping it subtle. Just me and my brothers and sisters. They love us. We fixing the puzzle, no stressing. I come to the bunker, the struggle with aunties and cuz. Wanna read it, believe it. They should be back. See it and need it like a kid back. Bridges and pieces like a Kit Kat. Akis and I get seated. It's a poly world, not dolly world. Alpha love, the kingdom within. AOSD is finessing. RPK, let your journey begin. It's a poly world, not dolly world. Alpha love, the kingdom within. AOSD is finessing. RPK, let your journey begin. AOSD, 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 Assembly of Sound Doctrine.